We are here to take a look at a possible fit for the Eagles at 32. If he makes it that far, which he might not, Zach, we're talking about Colston Loveland from Michigan, the tight end. If the Eagles want to replace Dallas Goedert, could you do any better than Colston Loveland?
Well, he's one of the two best tight ends in the draft from my perspective. He's worthy of a first-round pick. This is not a position that the Eagles typically prioritize in the first round, but we're talking about the 32nd overall pick. I think that's fine value, and I think this is a player who's going to be a good player in the NFL. So that would it depends if the tight end spot is one you'd rather address in round 2 or round 3. But if you're willing to do it in round 1, Colston Loveland's worthy of a first-round pick.
All right, let's find out a little bit more about the scouting report on Loveland from our All-City draft expert, Fran Duffy. And then on the other side, we're going to talk about the potential fit with the Eagles.
All right, time to talk about Michigan tight end Colston Loveland, just under 6'6", just under 250 pounds. So a little bit of a leaner tight end, but look, that size, he makes up for it with athleticism and his ability to make plays down the field. And that's really the superpower for me when you look at Colston Loveland. His ability to be a mismatch against safeties and against linebackers working the middle, especially vertically down the seam. I think he's got a little bit more juice, straight line, than Tyler Warren does, the tight end from Penn State, one of the other top tight ends in this class. And Loveland's ability to play, whether it's in line or detached from the formation and put stress on those second-level defenders, that could be an element of his game that offensive coordinators are able to tap into. And it's not just from a movement standpoint. He's also a solid route runner, and he's really, really good at the catch point. His ball skills is one of the best parts of his game. He actually has never dropped a target when he was targeted 20-plus yards down the field. And that's something that is hard to find at the tight end position. And again, that comes from his ability to address the football and finish at the catch point. What I like also about Loveland, look, he was a big part of the offense in 2023 where they go on that national title run. He became the focal point this year. They lost a bunch of pass catchers. They lost that entire offensive line. You lose your quarterback. You lose your running backs. You lose your whole coaching staff. So there was a lot of turnover for that Michigan Wolverines program. He gets hurts his shoulder early on in September, stays put, said I never thought about sitting out. He was targeted at 38.7% of his snaps this past year. That's the highest target share of any tight end drafted in the last decade when you're looking just in their final season on campus. So he was the focal point of that offense, and he did it with a bum shoulder. So I really like what you saw from Colston Loveland. Now, that being said, when I look at the negatives, the size is always going to be an issue for him at times in the run game. He gives effort as a blocker, but I don't think that he's going to be a plus in that area moving forward to the NFL. I do think he can get a little bit better as a route runner. There's some good flashes there, but he can continue to improve. That's something that most tight ends can say going into the NFL. I don't think he's going to be a dynamic playmaker after the catch. To me, I see more of a Zach Ertz or a Dalton Kincaid type of player at the position, at his ceiling. Those guys are good tight ends. Zach Ertz was extremely productive in the right situation over the course of his career. But I think you just have to understand what you're seeing there with this player. Not a true, all right, we're going to line him up everywhere and he's going to be a mismatch for everybody. But I think that this guy has the ability to be a focal point of a pass game, a really reliable quarterback's best friend type, and just not an enforcer in the run game. You can check the box there, but he's not going to be a huge plus. Got to get through the shoulder injury. Looks like all signs are positive from that standpoint. He should be ready to go by training camp. So I don't think that injury is going to have a huge impact on his draft stock. Just some little things that he's going to have to improve on. But overall, this is a pass-first, wide tight end who can be moved around the formation. Maybe not a true mismatch. Maybe never be the George Kittle, Travis Kelce type of weapon in the NFL. But a really serviceable player who's going to be really useful in an NFL pass game.
All right, Zach, Colston Loveland, 21 years old, 6'6", 248, productive in the passing game, gives enough effort as a blocker. I don't know. I kind of feel like the Eagles have not brought in Loveland for a pre-draft visit. There's probably a likelihood that he's going to be gone by 32. But given the state of the Eagles roster and the likelihood that they want to move on from Dallas Goedert, I kind of feel like he would be like the ideal pick for the Eagles at 32.
It would make sense, and he's someone who we've spoken about on the PHLY Eagles show, and I was bullish on him then. Frankly, you go back 2 years ago when Michigan had a better quarterback play with J.J. McCarthy, and he was better in the passing game than I think what you saw this past season when they were a mess at the quarterback spot. But you watch him play, and elsewhere on our feed, make sure you're checking this out on YouTube. When we spoke about Mason Taylor, I said Mason Taylor brought kind of memories or made me think about Dallas Goedert. when I watch,
he's giving Dallas Goedert.
yeah, when I watch Loveland, I think Zach Ertz.
Ooh, you think he's giving Ertz?
That's the guy who jumps out to me, and maybe there's some selection bias here because he's from that Jim Harbaugh offense, the same as Zach Ertz.
Okay.
But to me, Loveland, the way he's like so good with leverage, the size. I mean, it's like a big wide receiver type. You can use him different ways. I'm real impressed with Loveland. I felt that way when he was a young prospect out of Idaho at Michigan. I was following him then. And
you were following the recruiting rankings out of Idaho back then.
I was following Michigan's recruiting.
Got it.
Right. So I couldn't tell you the number 2 player in the state of Idaho that year, but I could tell you about Colston Loveland.
Bob Boise.
I could tell you about Colston Loveland. And you said that he would make sense for the Eagles at 32. This is a pick that if we're sitting at this table on draft night and they use the 32nd overall pick on Colston Loveland, I would say that's a good outcome for the Eagles.
You referenced the video we did about Mason Taylor. Maybe we can link this bad boy right below here. But we talked about it there, and I think we should talk about it here. The possibility of the Eagles moving on from Dallas Goedert. How important do you think they think it is to find a replacement tight end?
Well, they've never been in this position,
Yeah.
honestly. And I say never. The past 25 years, they've had that tight end waiting. L.J. Smith was waiting on Chad Lewis, and Brent Selleck was waiting on L.J. Smith, and Zach Ertz was waiting on Brent Selleck, and Dallas Goedert was waiting on Zach Ertz.
Well said.
And so this is rare for Howie Roseman not to have that succession plan in place.
Grant Calcaterra erasure.
I like Grant. I don't think Grant's the future of the position for the Eagles.
Yeah.
And so when I look at I don't think the Eagles think they necessarily need to force a tight end. I think it's one that they would like to take one this year, but I don't think they're going into this saying they need their starting tight end from this draft class just because they have so much other talent on offense. But if you can find if you can find the value matching the need, I'm not even talking about positional priority because I think you're going to find some real good edge rushers on the board at 32, and you might find an offensive tackle that you like, maybe even a D tackle. But from a need perspective, this is a marriage of need and value if Loveland is there.
All right, well said. Make sure that you like and subscribe the video below. Do your job. We're doing ours. And for more of Fran Duffy's analysis on all the draft prospects, check out the Die Hard Draft Guide on allphly.com. We've also got the Eagles 100, tailored specifically to Eagles fans. And check out our PHLY Eagles show every weekday at 2 o'clock right here on the PHLY Sports YouTube channel.